Thank you very much for staying with us. All right, so we're just about to get into our conversation, but before then, let me just sample one or two more tweets that I'm getting here. Remember, we are asking you today on our Twitter poll if you feel that the IEBC is ready to conduct a credible poll. Quite a number of comments coming. Collins Narianga, you put a very serious point out. You say that IEBC can only conduct credible elections if political parties stop criticizing every effort that IEBC tries to put in place. Also, somebody here by the name Samuel N. Orutwa, you say, credible elections is not just casting a vote on 8th, but the whole process before and after, up to counting, it must be credible to be accepted. Marvin Yaboki, you put it so simply, you say, no, IEBC is not ready. All right, quite a number of comments, very many issues that we'll also be tackling here in my conversation. Remember that you can also chime in. Hashtag is News Center or at Betty M. Kello is my Twitter handle. Tell me what you think about IEBC's preparation for the elections. We only have 19 days to go. All right, let me introduce my panel of guests, and I'll start from my immediate left. We have Ambassador Jack Tumo, who's a former ECK commissioner, not so new to News Center. Thank you very much for joining us, Ambassador. We also have Ben Nyabira, who is from the Katiba Institute, and he is a program officer there. Thank you very much for your time. Sure. We also have Joshua Kipto, who is a lawyer and a political analyst. Thank you for your time, Josh.
Thank you so much.
All right, so let's get straight to the conversation. And we were talking earlier, Ambassador, and IEBC right now has so many cases against it in court. If I can just mention maybe a few of them. The first one is against IEBC and KEBS. This one has been filed by activist Maina Kiai, among others. This one is challenging the procurement process of the BVR kits. This one in particular raises concern that the kits have not been verified or subjected to pre-export verification. First of all, what do you think of that suit? Does it make sense?
Well, thank you for having me in the studio, first of all.
Right.
IEBC has told us they are ready for the elections. They are the ones in the kitchen and the ones cooking. So we have to believe what they are telling us. I know that everybody cannot be satisfied with what they are doing, but if they assure us there is a good progress, that is it. The minor case is a little worrying in that it wants us to go back to the roots of the procurement process. It is a long process. We have already 19 days to the elections. I want to believe that the judges who will be hearing this case will be mindful of that timing and know that Kenyans are all prepared to have elections, not because any individual wants it, but the Constitution has it like that. And I don't think there's any way we can postpone the elections come the 8th of next month. So I want, as I say, I want to hope that whoever is going to hear that case will have that in mind and make it possible for us to have elections in 8th.
All right. I want to ask also, IEBC, I mean, sometimes they're caught up in a situation whereby, maybe if they consulted a bit more, they would not get into the hot soup that we're seeing them in. Because, even looking at this Maina Kiai case, don't you think that this is something that needed to be done, that they knew this had to be done, instead of us coming to this time and then, we have all these cases against them?
IEBC,
if I can just get the sentence of them.
Can I ask which minor KI case is it? The one?
Yes. So this one is against, it's challenging the procurement process of the BVR kits. It says that the kits have not been verified and they were not subjected to pre-export verification. Basically saying that we do not know what BVR kits we're working with. We're not sure about all these kits.
And the kits are here already?
Yes.
I don't know. I guess the IBC should have of course, consulted, as you said. The IBC should not be telling us that they are ready. We should see that they're actually ready. They have an obligation to make sure that we actually see that, because perception is also very important. On the case, now that the BVRs are here, the election is the next 20 or so days. I think the judges that will be listening to the case will probably require the IBC to try and show whether those background checks were done, and if they were not done, to try to iron out any pending questions.
All right.
So, yeah.
All right, Joshua, one of the things that the courts has been advised by different quarters is that they have to also be very considerable and mindful of the days that we have to the elections. If it's to do with the Court of Appeal, a case which is going to be ruled on tomorrow, or even a case like this one, which really, puts into question the whole election process. Are we likely to see the court really, being considerate about the number of days remaining?
Now, when you speak about the court being advised to consider that, people forget one simple thing. Even if you look at the judgments the courts have been giving when it comes to those IBC cases, they have been very considerate. And in one case, look at how they ruled when it came to the Ballot case, where they asked IBC to proceed on with the procurement and the preparation of the ballot papers for other positions except for the presidential. Now, that is already showing that the courts are considerate. Importantly, the courts operate on a strict timeline. If we were to operate on the everyday timelines we have, when I have to appear in court, I'm given 14 days. For this case, they are all of them operating under there's some sense of urgency. And you've seen several benches being constituted within a very short notice. The matter that IEBC appealed, it is coming up for ruling by Friday. That's like a difference of 1.5 weeks. So the courts are considerate. But that is not the problem. The problem squarely lies with IEBC. When you talk about a matter going to court, it shows that that is a redress. We are seeking redress. Yes. So meaning, at the first instance, the question should be, had IEBC taken up its particular role? That is the only question. And I think we keep veering off and wishing to placate and make IEBC really look like this sacred body that should be helped, should be kind of babysat. That is not the case, because they had 2 years, 3 years. I've sat in a discussion with the CEO of IEBC, Ezra Chiloba. We invited him to the School of Law, and he gave us a very, very, very good presentation about IEBC. And if I can remember well on their presentation, they said 2 things that will dictate in these elections. They will learn from the mistakes of the 2013 elections. The 2013 elections was messed up because of bad decisions and mismanagement. In what way? It started with the procurement process. It was messed up, and the end result was whatever we got could not work on the election day. That is why the BVR kit failed. And that is why, even if you look at the aftermath, the post-mortem of the IEBC debacle in 2013, they sat down, they did a very clear analysis of what went wrong where, and in fact, legislative measures were taken up. That is why, for example, unlike in 2013, we have it in the law that when it comes to the electronic voting, they have to be synchronized. The matter about the ballot, about the tender to Al Ghurair, one of the reasons that the court considers was when IEBC was tendering, they did not consider what the law had been amended to have. For example, when it comes to the electronic voting, they were supposed to have 3 in 1. All those, EVID, BVR, they have to be synchronized. Now, those things are out there. It is IEBC's own report. Then why didn't they act? So by the time we go to court, then tells you something is wrong with IEBC. And then you see, when they show up on a media and tell us they are ready, I can lie to you today, I can lie to you tomorrow, I can't lie to you every day. And the beauty about this, we are only 3 weeks away. We are the voters, we will be there, the media will be there, and we will showcase. Now, IEBC will be at play. There will be no more statements, it will be real action. It will be short time. So if they are not ready for that, we will see when that time comes. Maybe, but it could be too late to just see things as not too late. It is a simple case of deliberate I don't know why we don't learn as a country. We keep doing the mistake over and over and over again.
Okay. I want to speak to Ambassador. I mean, you have seen an election process before. From where you sit, what concerns you about IEBC and its readiness for elections?
IEBC is operating, but I think at some stage it lost its independence. It started sort of listening to other actors from outside. If it were acting as an independent institution, I believe that some of these things would come up. I want to agree with Joshua fully that IEBC should be proactive. It should be ahead of these things so that no cases go to court. And they have got very expert lawyers. I don't see why they let things come to this stage. Now, having come to where we are now, as I said a little earlier, they have to go full force, full throttle to ensure that these hurdles are removed. The ones which are going to court are already out of the way because the court has to make a decision on how to proceed. But still within themselves, there are quite a number of things that they have to do to ensure that the election is free and fair. Personally, I'm a little worried because, most of the problems that come in elections are at the polling stations. I don't know what arrangements they have with the political parties, with the observers, with the media on how to manage the polling stations. Because if they are not properly managed, I see a big problem. There's going to be a big crowd, both of the media, the observers, the agents, and all these fellows. It becomes very difficult. So within this short time, I agree that there are quite a number of things that IEBC should and must do to get through so that we see a free and a fair, credible elections.
All right.
I am not sure that they are going that way. The other time I was a little surprised that the chairman was sitting in a court listening to petitioners.
Yes.
Such a thing he should be able to delegate so that he focus on issues that may affect the outcome of the elections.
All right. Let me ask you, Ben, do you think that IBC sometimes puts itself in these situations that we've seen? First of all, by not doing, quote-unquote, the right thing. Another case that we have to talk about is the one to do with the backup system. It has been filed by NASA, and also Bado Mapambano movement has also something to do with the backup system. I mean, isn't it obvious that you need a backup system? Of course, we had a conversation before, earlier on in the year, about this backup system, whether it should be manual or electronic. But as IBC, shouldn't they have come up with a backup system as it would be the norm?
First, the many cases that IBC has put itself into, some of them, it's actually of their own making. For example, the appeals. The court made a decision on the ballot papers. They decided to appeal. They could have avoided that. Then the court also made a decision on the point at which, the other minor KI case, the point at which whether the results at the constituency level are provisional or final. And again, they decided to appeal, which they lost. So some of these cases, it's their own making. They're wasting so much time in court, which they could have avoided. But on the backup issue, I hear the controversy is not so much whether there is a backup. The IBC has tried to have at the tail end, I think that's the fourth or third option, a manual backup. But what the petitioners in the case are saying is that the complementary mechanism should also be electronic. And the manual one that was passed in Parliament should only apply on a case-by-case basis. So we should not have a situation where a whole polling station, or even more than one polling station, says that their machines have failed, and so they're going for a manual option. For which then the opposition is saying, if that is the option, then the election in that polling station, or whichever it is, should be postponed until they can have working machines. So I think the IBC needs to clarify that. When does it use the manual option? Is it when it fails completely, or is it on a case-by-case basis when some few individuals cannot be identified? Joshua, as you comment also on that, do you think we've opened the litigation space so wide such that, anybody can really go to court? If today I don't find my name on the register or whatever, I can actually just decide, you know what, this election is not fair. My name is not on the register. We open that space too much.
There's another too much when it comes to the judicial process. That is the constitution. Ideally, you should say we are living the law. We are living the constitution. The courts are just giving life into the constitutions to the extent that we can say for once in Kenya we have a clear channel and avenue. If we don't have that space, if we don't have ability to redress, if we don't have the ability to question and to get answers, then it would mean we'll be a closed society. And that's how you're able to fathom a crisis. That's how you're able to make a very small matter to snowball. Like, if we don't have such avenues, then we won't have answers for the problems we have. For example, when it comes to IEBC, if at their level, as an independent institution with staff and with very good budgets, if at their level they don't get their act together, and as citizens you are left with little options, the best avenue has been the court. And you've seen IBC, as he says, IBC has been on the defensive. If you are even to, for example, just to give a little advice to IBC, why shouldn't they just be on top of their game in two ways? There's the communication bit. Secondly, get their systems running so that as you work, And as you communicate ahead of schedule and time, and when you talk about work, just stick to the law.
Okay.
IEBC was the originator of the Elections Act. When you talk about Elections Offences Act, even the IEBC itself Act, all those laws are to their disposal. So why shouldn't they just operate that way? So when you talk about we are litigating too much, it is because of failure of institution. I won't even yap so much about IEBC. Even other institutions in Kenya, the failure of the institutions are being bedeviled upon the courts. The last example I can put, now that you can compare and see why we have so many cases in court, is when it came to the political parties' primaries. All the political parties were indicted for inability to carry out credible nominations for whatever level of seats they were offering. So what happened? All the parties that felt they have been aggrieved went to the political parties, and the same political parties were unable to give them good redress. So what happened? They had to move to court, and that is why if you were there and you would see the political parties tribunal, they would sit up to 12 in the night, and that was just a summary of the failure of our institutions. If the parties are done well, we wouldn't be in court. If IBC can do well, we'll have so many few cases in court.
Let me just add a little on that one.
We need to take a break. We're coming back. We're coming back now, and we'll continue the conversation, but we really need to take that break right now on the show. This conversation follows in a few minutes. Don't go away.